Shalom, shalom, Shaul Dog here, once again with your weekly drosh. This one is Parashah 9. Vayeshev, he continued living. This is chapter 37, verse 1 through 40, verse 23. This is basically the adventures of Yosef. It was the adventures of Yaakov, but now it's the adventures of Yosef. We'll just jump right into it. Yaakov continued living in the land where his father had lived as a foreigner in the land of Canaan, this Canaan. Here's the history of Yaakov. When Yosef was 17, he used to pasture his flock with his brothers, even though he was still a boy. Once he was with the sons of Bela and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives, he brought a bad report about them to their father. Now, Israel loved Yosef, the most of all of his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a long-sleeved robe. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they began to hate him and reached a point where they couldn't even talk with him in a civil manner. Now, first of all, the brothers are ignoring the mitzvah of coveting, okay? I mean, they were coveting Yosef's position in the family and the love that the father was given to him. But see, this is also exactly what Paul, the Apostle Paul, was talking about when he said he wanted to incite his people to jealousy, okay? It's when the father loves the son, okay? When the father loves the child more than the other children. You see what I'm saying? And, well, this has a much bigger, a much bigger and grand scale in the message than what we just read here. You know, it's not just about earthly father and an earthly son and jealousy there. No, whenever you have people who are actually chosen by Yah, okay, who are his chosen people, when somebody else is being treated better than they are, and they believe they're worshiping the same God, well, then they're going to get jealous of this person as being treated better than they're being treated, okay? But see, jealousy is an ugly thing. Covetous nature is an ugly thing. It's just not a good thing at all because it brings out a lot of wickedness in people, okay? And, well, it doesn't matter, though, because when Yah is blessing you, when he's chosen you, and he's picked you out of all the people in the world, okay, and he's guiding your steps, it doesn't matter how jealous these people get and how nasty they get and how much they try to attack you and everything else. Just keep doing what Yah says to do. You just keep obeying him, keep your covenant with him, and you keep praying to him, communicating with him and everything like that, and he will always make it to his glory whenever these people come against you. The more they attack you, the more you're going to be blessed. It may not look like a blessing at first, but you're going to look back and say, you know what? I was truly blessed. Okay? I'm pretty sure if you look back in your life right now, if you're walking the path of Torah and everything else, if you look back right now, I'm pretty darn sure that you could say, yeah, that was Yah, that was Yah, yeah, that was him too, blessing my life, because I know I can. But, you know, they wanted to kill Yosef, especially after he had a couple dreams, okay? Yosef had a couple dreams that were, you know, just totally off the wall to his brothers and his father. He was even rebuked by his father, okay? Where, you know, his brothers and his father were bowing down to him, prostrating themselves to him. You know, and when you have the older brother and the father and these, you know, if you're an older brother, you're an authority figure over the younger one. That's the way it worked here. And if you're the father, you're the authority figure over the whole family. You're the boss, okay? That's the way it worked here. But, you know, when you say, hey, I had a dream and you guys were bowing down to me, basically, that's not going to be received rather well. And he was even rebuked by his father, like I said. But, well, they wanted to kill him. Okay, they wanted to do something nasty to him. So here we are with verse 18. They spotted him in the distance, and before they had arrived, or he had arrived where they were, they had already plotted to kill him. They said to each other, look, the dreamer's coming. So come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of these water cisterns here. Then we'll say some wild animal devoured him. Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams. But when Reuven heard this, that is his brother, he saved him from being destroyed by them. He said, we shouldn't take his life. Don't shed blood. Reuven added, throw him into the cistern here in the wilds, but don't lay hands on him yourselves. He intended to rescue Yosef from the cistern later on and restore him to his father, but that didn't work. Okay, when Reuven was gone, all of a sudden, his brothers decided to pick up the ball and run with it. So we go into verse 23, and it says, so it was that when Yosef arrived to be with his brothers, they stripped off his robe, the long-sleeve robe he is wearing, and took him and threw him into the cistern. Now, see, the cistern was empty without water, so he wasn't drowning. But still, it's bad to be in a cistern without water since you need water to survive, And at this point, Joseph's probably looking at this whole situation saying, oh, geez, my life really stinks right now. But let's continue with verse 25. They sat down to eat their meal. But as they looked up, they saw in front of them a caravan of Yishmaelim, coming from Gilead, their camels loaded with aromatic gum, healing resin and opium on their way down to Egypt. Yehudah said to his brothers, what advantage is it to us if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come, let's sell him to the Yishmaelim, instead of putting him to death with our own hands. After all, he is our own brother. He is our own flesh and blood. His brothers paid attention to him, so when the Midianite merchants passed by, they drew and lifted Yosef up out of the cistern and sold him for a half pound of silver shekels to the Ishmaelim, who took Yosef on to Egypt. Now, see, Yosef didn't know what was going on, and when we go through trials, we don't know what's going on. We basically know that Yah's doing something. Most of the time, we don't know what he's doing, though, and I'm sure that he thought his life was just going straight to crap, but, Yah had different plans for his life, But they took his robe, they killed a goat, and they bathed the robe in blood and everything. They took it back to his father, or their father, and they basically broke his heart because, this man loved his son so much. And, there's a part where Yehudah does some funky stuff, and there's like a little sexual thing going on. We're gonna get to that next year, okay? Next year, when I start the new season of drashes. But I want to just stick with Yosef here, so we're gonna skip all the way down to chapter 39, okay? And it's just a brief little mention in there too, of Yehudah and, what happened, with intercourse and all that stuff. But anyways, like I said, I want to focus on Yosef here. We're at chapter 39. Yosef was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's and a captain of the guard, an Egyptian, brought him in from Yishmaelim, and who had brought him there. Yahavah was with Yosef, and he became wealthy while he was in the household of his master, the Egyptian. The master saw how Yahavah was with him, that Yahavah prospered everything he did. Yosef pleased him and served him, and his master appointed him manager of his household. He entrusted all of his possessions to Yosef. That would be like taking your cleaning lady, if you have one, or somebody that the kid that cuts your grass. Okay, there, in biblical terms, he's your servant. Okay, because you're hiring him to do a job. He's doing work for you, so he's not really an employee. He's your servant, in a way. That's just basically how it works in Scripture. But it'd be like taking him and saying, okay, come on into my house, and, you could have free run of the house. You could just manage all my affairs. You could see Yah was blessing him here. But from the time he appointed a manager of his household and all of his possessions, Yahavah blessed the Egyptian's household for Yosef's sake. Okay, it wasn't because the Egyptian was a great guy. It was because of Yosef. Yahavah's blessing was on all he owned, whether in the house or in the field. So he left all his possessions in Yosef's care. And because he had him, he paid no attention to his affairs except for the food he ate. Now, Yosef was a good-looking kid, okay? Young man, strapping young man, built, just, just GQ quality. He was a hunk in today's standards. I think women of today would probably be throwing themselves at him. Well, Potiphar's wife decided to throw herself at him and keep throwing herself at him and throwing herself at him and just hitting on him and just, she had the hots for him because he was a good looking guy and she was thinking with her loins. Well, she set Yosef up for a fall. Okay, I do believe it was Shakespeare who said, "Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned." Well, we see that here in verse 11 here. However, one day when he went to the house to do his work and none of the men living in the house was there indoors, she grabbed him by his robe and said, "Sleep with me." But he fled, leaving his robe in her hand, and got himself outside. When she saw that he had left his robe in her hand and had escaped, she called the men of her house and said to him, "Look at this, my husband brought in a Hebrew to make fools of us. He came in and wanted to sleep with me, but I yelled out loudly. When he heard me yelling like that, he left his robe with me and ran out." She put the robe aside until his master came home. Then she said to him, "This Hebrew slave you brought us to work for us made a fool of me. But when I yelled out, he left his robe with me and fled outside." When his master heard this, he saw what his wife showed him. She said, "This is what what your slave did to me." I'm only working on 4 hours sleep here. Please bear with me. But this is what your slave did to me. He became furious. Yosef's master took him and put him in prison, in the place where the king's prisoners were kept. And there he was in prison. But Yahweh was still with Yosef, showing him grace and giving him favor in the sight of the prison warden. The prison warden made Yosef supervisor of all the prisoners in that prison, so that whatever they did, he was in charge of it. The prison warden paid no attention to anything Yosef did because Yahweh was with him. And whatever he did, Yahweh prospered. Now see, Yosef's probably wondering at this point, I wonder when these trials are going to end, I mean, like I said, Yah's going to reveal, when you're going through a trial, he's going to reveal just little bits, bit by bit and everything like that, He's just going to do that. He's not going to let you know the whole picture because, it's like a surprise. But you're never going to know Yah unless you've endured trials and you've strengthened your faith in him. And if you turn to him during those trials and turned only to him during those trials, you're never going to know Yah. I'm telling you right now. I could speak from experience where that's concerned. But, now we're getting around to the end of it here. Like I said, we have somewhat of a cliffhanger here. But let's go on to verse 5 here. One night the two of them, the king of Egypt's cupbearer and his baker, were there in prison. Both had dreams, each dream with its own meaning. Yosef came into them in the morning and saw that they looked sad. He asked Pharaoh's officers there with him in the prison of his master's house, "Why are you looking so sad today?" They said to him, "We each had a dream, and there's no one around who can interpret it." Yosef said to them, "Don't interpretations belong to Yahweh? Tell it to me, please." See, he knows he's with Yah, and Yah's with him. He says the interpretations belong to Yah, and he said, "Tell it to me, please." So he knows that, he's got a covenant with Yah. Okay? Then the chief cupbearer told Yosef his dream. "In my dream, in front of me was a vine, and the vine had 3 branches. The branches budded, and then it suddenly began to blossom, and finally clusters of ripe grapes appeared. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, so I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and gave the cup to Pharaoh." Yosef said to him, "Here's the interpretation. The 3 branches are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your office. You'll be giving Pharaoh his cup as you used to when you were his cupbearer. But remember me when it goes well with you, and show me kindness, please, and mention me to Pharaoh, so that he'll release me from this prison. For the truth is that I was kidnapped from the land of the Hebrews, and here too I have done nothing wrong that would justify putting me in this dungeon." When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was favorable, he said to Yosef, "I too saw in my dream there were 3 baskets of white bread on my head. In the uppermost basket there were all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, but the birds came and ate them out of the basket on my head." Yosef answered, "Here's the interpretation. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head from off of you, and he will hang you from a tree, and the birds will eat your flesh off of you. On the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday." Okay, see, I'm going to stop right here at Pharaoh's birthday for a second. Now, you want to go running around worshiping who you think is the Messiah on his birthday. Well, the only people in Scripture were Pharaoh, Herod, and Eov's children, Job's children, who celebrated birthdays. Okay? Pharaoh and Herod were not walking with Yah. Okay? They were evil, demonic men. Eov's children, well, they weren't walking with Yah either, and they were killed as a result, in the test of Eov. Okay? This is what a birthday is, okay? A birthday is nothing but idolatry and just self-worship and everything. You get to be a little G for a day, and that's just what the false prophets always teach. You're a little G, you're a little God, but you're not, okay? And, birthdays are pretty much frowned upon in Scripture. So if you want to celebrate the birth of the Messiah, then you should actually take part in the festival of Sukkot in the fall when he was actually born, okay? And not mourn for Tammuz, because that's what December 25th is. That's the day of mourning for Tammuz, okay? I just want to let you know that. But on the third day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, he gave a party for all his officials, and he lifted up the head of the chief cupbearer and the head of the chief baker among his officials. He restored the chief cupbearer back to his position so that he again gave Pharaoh his cup, but he hanged the chief baker as Yosef had interpreted to them. Nevertheless, the chief cupbearer did not remember Yosef, but forgot him. Okay? So, this sort of sucks. It just drops off right here. Like I said, we have a cliffhanger. What's the rest of the story? Well, we're going to get into that next week here. Okay? But, Yosef was not remembered here. Okay? Not at all. And, Potiphar basically threw him in the dungeon. Okay? I'm pretty sure that Yosef's not feeling so good right now at this time. He's like, what's going on here? And I'm pretty sure he went to the father, and the father gave him little bits and pieces so it would get him by. But, at this point, I'm sure he doesn't know what's going on. And I could just imagine the next time somebody wants to hand this kid a robe, twice involving a robe, he gets into trouble. No way. But see, back then, a robe was something stately, something that actually spelled authority for you. So this is what Yah did. He stripped that authority away from him, basically humbling him, bringing him down to earth, and then building him back up again. And we go through that all the time. We're going to be on our highs, and then Yah's going to knock us down when we're feeling too good about ourselves, and he's going to bring us to our lows just so he can build us back again. You see what I'm saying? But remember, seek first the kingdom of heaven and all of his righteousness, and all this will be given unto you. I got to get going because my computer's starting to warm up and the fan's getting louder, and it really makes for crappy audio. So take care, folks. I look forward to the next time.